Hello everyone, welcome back to chapter 10 on final intonation. We talked about in the previous activity how with statements we have falling intonation, right? Generally, intonation falls toward the end of a statement after that pitch increase with the focus word, right? You have an increase or a rising pitch with the focus word, and then falling intonation thereafter in statements. We practiced that with the most recent activity. Now we're going to look at falling intonation with WH questions or interrogatives. Who, what, when, where, why, and how. Those WH questions in English typically have falling intonation. Intonation usually falls at the end of WH questions that request information. What's your dog's name? What's your dog's name? Gristle, right? So falling intonation when we request information. Now, we do have rising intonation at the end of WH questions whenever we're trying to ask for clarification, or if we didn't hear and we want someone to repeat something, or if we didn't understand something and we want someone to please repeat what they just said. So typically when we ask a question with the WH word interrogative at the beginning, that question will have falling final intonation. But when a WH question is used to ask for clarification, or you're asking the question because you didn't understand or hear it quite clearly, then that WH question will have rising intonation at the end. So, for example, what's your dog's name? Gristle. Sorry, what's his name? Or what? Come again? Could you say that again, please? Right? We have rising intonation with those WH questions whenever we're trying to ask for clarification or have something repeated. So know the difference between those two. We're going to practice that right here and right now with exercise 4. So read the statement and then determine if the response should have rising intonation or falling intonation. It depends on the situation, right? Depends on whether you're asking for clarification or if you're asking for information, right? If you're requesting information, falling intonation. If you're asking for clarification or to have someone please repeat, then you'll have rising intonation. This is what we're talking about at the very beginning of the chapter when we talked about not only just the use, but the meaning. What's the meaning or the intended meaning between rising and falling intonation patterns? And we're seeing that here play out with these WH questions, right? That the meaning of a WH question that has falling intonation is that we're asking for information. The meaning of a WH question that has rising intonation is that we didn't hear, right? Or could you please repeat the question, right? So let's take a look and practice that together. I'll call you tomorrow morning. When? Around 9. I'll call you tomorrow morning. When? Tomorrow morning. Information, falling intonation. Clarification, or please repeat, a repeating of the same statement, right? So see the difference there? Falling in intonation, information. Rising intonation, repeat please what was just said. I left my umbrella on the bus. Where? Where? On the floor of the front seat. Information in terms of where exactly on the bus. I left my umbrella on the bus. Where? Where? On the bus. Repeating, right? Asking someone to please repeat the information. Hopefully you're picking up on the difference here between falling and rising information. Let's do a few more together. We're moving closer to campus. Where? To 10th Street. We're moving closer to campus. Where? Where? Near campus. Number 4. There was a tornado in Alabama. Where? I didn't say that correctly. Forgive me. Where? Birmingham. There was a tornado in Alabama. Where? Where? Alabama. Elena is from Peru. Where? Lima. Elena is from Peru. Where? Peru. So, in summary, with WH questions that have falling intonation at the end, you're requesting for information. With WH questions that have rising intonation at the end, it's a request to please repeat information or statement that was given. So if you work in, guys, just about anything, but especially if you're working in restaurants or in the service industry, in retail, trying to think if you're in the hospital as a nurse assistant, I mean, there's so many different situations where we do this, right? Where you're at the bank and you're requesting things, when you're at the doctor's office and they're asking you questions, when you're at the post office and you're trying to send things back home, when you're at the Social Security's office and they're asking information, when you're at the DMV and you're trying to update your registration, when you're at the grocery store and you're asking for products. I mean, this happens all the time, right? Not just in your work, but in your daily life. Now you can tell the difference in terms of these patterns when someone is asking you for information or when someone is asking you to repeat something. And that's all dictated by intonation. Final intonation falling is asking for information. Rising final intonation is asking you to please repeat. Hopefully you'll find those patterns helpful as you try to apply this knowledge in your day-to-day experiences.